Okie dokie. First up on this evening's agenda, Board of Education OSBA stuff.
This is an annual election that takes place, and you guys, as a consensus of the board, you have to vote on these certain positions and that people are running for through Oregon School Board Association. So I've included their information, who applied to be for the Board of Directors and the Legislative Policy Committee, and also the resolutions that they are asking you to vote on.
So we have the first one.
Are you going up with this?
Well, we have to. Oh, goodness. We have to go, well, off of the first one. So adopting, there's the motion to adopt the resolution 1 and 2. Before we even get to the people. Yep, before we even get to the people.
I move to adopt resolution number 1 to create the Oregon Rural School Board Members Caucus and designate a seat on the OSPA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee.
I'll second that.
Oh, it's a tie. The motion to adopt resolution number 1 to create the Oregon Rural School Board Members Caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 1 to create the Oregon Rural School Board Members Caucus and designate a seat on OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is carried.
I move to adopt resolution number 2 to approve the proposed amendments to the OSPA bylaws.
I second that.
The motion to adopt resolution number 2 to approve the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 2 to approve the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is passed. Next up. No, we've got the voting for people.
The 3 candidates.
One, there was a lot in there.
Right.
Which one?
First.
I move to cast Willamina School District's vote for Craig Albright for the Yamhill Polk County Region, position number 13 for the OSPA Board of Directors.
Second.
The motion to cast Willamina School District's vote for Craig Albright for the Yamhill Polk County Region, position number 13 for the OSBA Board of Directors has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion?
Who seconds that motion?
It was a
It
tie
doesn't matter.
between Dan and Dan.
It was a D.
It's all the-
It was D something.
Yeah.
Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of casting Willamina School District's vote for Craig Albright for the Yamhill Polk County Region, position number 13 for the OSBA Board of Directors signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is passed. Okie dokie. Oh, we have to pick one. So So next up, we have a motion to cast Willamina School District's vote for either Edward Drussel, Susan Graham, or Abby Warmbrier for Yamhill Polk County Region Number 13 Legislative Policy Committee. Who do we want? Are they here to?
No.
You know, just their information was included in the packet for your review.
So can we disqualify them for not showing up?
They are not supposed to show up.
I don't think any of them would go.
Well,
So we just vote for one of the three?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as a consensus of the board, who,
so,
after reviewing their information, who do you feel would be the best candidate to fill that position?
so I'm just gonna roll through this stuff, just kind of pointing out what I see. Abby Warmbrier, currently employed or has employment with OSU Extension, Minville Place School, and Pullman School District, so has school experience, mostly rural, going back all the way to 2009.
To me, she seemed like the most qualified.
Right,
Yeah,
Susan
that's-
Graham is self-employed in real estate, and she worked for Ernst & Young Limited Liability Partners. Looks like she's got a degree in taxation. And a little bit of, some law.
And a BS in education too.
I'm sorry?
And a BS in education.
And a BS in education. And then Edward Drussel, currently working for Retire Ready Solutions. He's competed in 4 half Ironmans. He's received the Distinguished Toastmasters Award in 2021. And there's some degrees in there, but it doesn't say in what.
Really random.
Well,
I think the first one you mentioned, Abby.
Abby
has the most
Warmbrier?
experience, Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
We have to vote on that, or can we
Yeah,
get consensus?
yes, we have to vote on it.
I'll move that we vote for Abby Warmbrier from Greenville District.
I'll
Second.
second.
Dan and
We're fighting in a
Carly.
second, okay, got it.
The motion to cast Willamina School District's vote for Abby Warmbrier for Yamhill Polk County Region Number 13 Legislative Policy Committee has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of casting Willamina School District's vote for Abby Warmbrier for Yamhill Polk County Region Number 13 Legislative Policy Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is passed. Next up, on our agenda is our FFA student presentation.
Awesome. You guys can stand up.
Stand up. Okay.
So, we're here to tell you guys thank you for letting us go to National Convention. And quick slideshow that you guys were able to see some of the pictures of some of the places we went. All total, counting Oregon, we went to 8 states, counting Oregon. So, and 3 people, it was their first time ever been on an airplane. So, the one that made the slideshow is the missing one, but she's in some of the pictures. So, this is moving forward. Thank you, and they're gonna just kind of say their favorite parts. April said to try to make it quick, and then we also have a cool little map that some stuff. So, Tennessee welcomed us with a nice barbecue food after we got off the airplane and stuff. And this lady was like the best waitress ever. Yeah. And so, you guys, anything you want to talk about with any of these?
I like the Hermitage. So for those of you that don't know what the Hermitage is, that's Andrew Jackson's house where he lived. And he's also buried there, so it's his final resting place. So it's kind of a little bit of background history that I learned from Mr. Nelson last year, and I got to tie it together by actually visiting where he lived for a little bit. So I liked that because it's very historical. We got a chance to go to Dollywood. I'm a huge Dolly Parton fan, so that was like really fun for me.
Oh,
No, you're fine. There's a Hermitage. Oh, and we visited Tennessee Tech's Arts for the Crafts or something like that. So they had like ceramics, woodworking, glass blowing, weaving, like fabric
glass
making,
Some metals.
neon sign making. There are a lot of different like art.
Some, like specialty, crazy
Divisions.
specialty art stuff. It is cool to see. He hooked us up with that
It's
one.
the Appalachian
School of
Center
the
for
Arts.
the Arts,
Center
but
for
it's
the Arts.
associated with
Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee Tech University.
And any time you get a chance to travel Tennessee in the fall, I recommend it. It is beautiful. They have a ton of deciduous trees over there. You can see the Smoky Mountain National Park right there in the middle there, and top left. This is a graduate student project that's like a entire statue that's going to be like counterbalanced and stuff. It's
Kind of like
totally impressive work.
it's like a wardrobe kind of going over. I don't know. It's really interesting.
And all these cabinets, the students there made.
This was one.
We were teaching Gracie how to drive.
This is us at Dollywood, and then us when we crossed over into North Carolina because of the Smoky Mountains, the summit.
So. And going into the visitor center was really educational. It shows this 3D map. I enjoyed that personally, to get to see kind of where we're at versus the elevation. We're way higher in the west than they are. Their mountains are not nearly as tall overall, but some of them are really steep. And if you tried to pass those back before cars and with horses and a wagon, they would have been really rough.
We went to the Kentucky State Capitol, and we got to tour that a little bit on Halloween. So,
It was very cool.
And
It
then
was
to Louisville Slugger, which was really cool if you like baseball. It's neat to see all that.
We got to see them actually make baseball bats. We went to 3 different state capitals while we were on our trip, but 2 of them we got a tour on the inside. Oh, we didn't mention
Churchill
Morgan
Downs.
Foods. We didn't mention Morgan Foods.
No. So we didn't actually have a tour at Churchill Downs, but we went by to kind of see like the outside and see how massive it is. And I enjoyed that.
This longhorn in the background is saddle trained, wagon trained, or pole trained, and part of like a ranch that they rehabilitate bison. But they don't call them bison, they call them buffaloes. Just so you know.
Yeah, so basically that guy in that picture there, we met at a gas station, and we started talking with him and asking him like if he had any clue of where we could maybe get a farm tour, local farm tour, if he knew anyone who would be willing to open up their home or ranch and show us a little bit about what they do over there. And he said he actually works for this guy who owns a $5 million horse barn.
Wow.
And so he's like, let me call my boss. He called his boss, and he let us come over. So we got to tour the $5 million horse barn, and because this guy is like, the 5th richest guy?
Want me to speak now?
Yeah, you know it.
So the company was formed in late 1800s, and the family, it's all family owned. They own Morgan, is the name of the family, and they process canned food. So they package food probably for people like Walmart and others under private labeling. They're the 3rd largest canned food processor in the United States. But it happens to be in a little town of Austin that's maybe half the size of Willamina. And we just happened to go to the estate's horse arena.
And we weren't allowed to take pictures
We
there.
couldn't
That was
take
one of the
any pictures.
expectations when we were there.
But he worked for him, and he's like, yeah, come on over. You guys can have a tour.
And he also spent 20-something years working at the Churchill Downs.
Morgan
So-
Foods.
We have that animals go to recover from their PTSD.
Yeah, that, 3 out of 3.
Probably one of the richest guys in the whole state of Indiana.
This was the Indianapolis Zoo. Just like any other zoo, I would suggest not going in the winter.
It was cold.
No animals were out there except for like the penguins, and like we went to a dolphin show. That was pretty
That was really cool. It was really
That was
fun.
the best part.
That made it worth going.
Yeah.
He gave us a majorly discounted price at least, but Africa, went back to Africa, I think. We didn't get to see any African
The
animals.
lion was like or tiger. Everything was hiding. The tiger was
We did get to talk to that
Monkey?
orangutan.
Oh, what was
Orangutan.
it? The orangutan was cool.
They got to learn a lot from orangutan.
Oh God.
So this is us at the National FFA Center. It was closed when we went by because of our schedule, but we got to take pictures on the outside.
And then we got a chance to go to Lainey Wilson. She is a country singer, really big with bell bottoms. That's why I wore my bright pink bell bottoms. But definitely listen to her music. It's really good.
We got floor seats.
Yeah, we got floor seats. It was awesome.
Thank you to Tracy for working her magic for that.
Yes.
A lot of places didn't get the concert tickets, so thanks to Tracy for sure. This is before this concert, obviously, and then it's packed in there. And I thought it was super cool to be at the National FFA Center because I've been involved in FFA since 1993, and that was my first time there, so that was pretty cool.
There's us at the rodeo. Well, no, at a state capitol and pictures at the rodeo. The rodeo is fun. It's also sanctioned by the FFA, so it's only FFA people that get to go to the rodeo. So you get to meet a lot of new cool people from a lot of different states.
And then this one's the Indiana, wait, is that the state capitol or is that the War Memorial?
This is
That's
that's
the state capitol.
That's the state capitol. Because we also went to the Indiana War Memorial, which is super cool. And then the one behind me is
Another war memorial.
another memorial, but they have similar
Different
names,
names, yeah.
but they're both super cool. Indiana's really into the celebrating the veterans.
And then the band picture is actually at the actual like convention. What do they call it? Workshop, general
Main
main
session.
workshop,
Main
main session of the day. So FFA has a national band, and they played lots of different tunes that we are familiar with. And so that was a picture of them. Actually, that's like us actually at the main session.
It was their 75th anniversary for the band.
We're coming up not too far from 100 conventions.
I want to say thank you guys very much. We appreciate letting us go again.
Yep.
We didn't get any pictures of the trade show in there. Oh, I thought it was.
And then like there's a map of where we went and some of the places. So, but yeah, we just want to come and thank you for your support and letting us go and leave state and all that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, we're selling wreaths still out there, so we're gonna let these guys go.
I'll take mine.
You have to show more of their, what do you call it, awards night. Banquet night.
That's a very nice shirt.
Oh, yes, this was a
Oh,
hand painted.
This was everything pass. If you lose this, you don't get to go
I
to the
figured they
rodeo,
had to have it
the
in
concert.
Yeah, this was, waited in a long line for getting this. Hand airbrush,
Yeah.
one of a kind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up on our agenda is the consent agenda.
And move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
The motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is that what you're looking for?
No, I was looking for something else.
I think it's right here. Sorry, you took it out of your packet.
I do, yes, I do, because it's all hole punched backwards. But anyway, the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Now, I do have one. And it involves, because I noticed that there's a hire on here for Roy as volunteer wrestling coach. Congratulations. But I do have a question. As wrestling coach, will participation in that event impact your participation at board meetings?
In our process, I don't believe so, because I was looking at the calendar.
Okay, should be over there. Okay. Thank you. When does wrestling end?
February.
Okay. Any other? Okay, the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, no other questions or comments for board discussion. I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is passed. Next up is Carrie with our superintendent's report.
Okay, well, there hasn't been a whole lot of school days since we were all last together between holidays, Veterans Day, parent-teacher conferences, but there's been some things that have occurred that it's important for the board to be aware of. Most importantly is our middle school, well, I don't know if it's most important, but exciting, is our middle school is getting closer and closer to being completed. We met with all of the middle school staff. We got to do a quick tour, and they got to really go in their classroom and see it and visualize. And then we had a meeting to discuss student furniture. And so that it's exciting to get to buy brand new furniture, because they're vacating rooms, but someone's moving into those rooms that they're vacating and needs the furniture. So, they have the opportunity to really think about how, starting from brand new, what they want their classroom to be like. So some are doing desks that can be converted into groups or pulled apart. Some want a few standing desks for students that might need to have a little movement while they're teaching. We're going to put a few study carrels that would allow a student to have a quiet space where they could put noise canceling headphones and work quietly. So the teachers have really invested their time and energy to think about what they want their classrooms to look like, to feel like, and selecting furniture that meets those needs. Finance, included in your board packet is, and you will be voting on or approving this later on in the decision items, but it was part of my packet, is the student investment grant agreement. This Oregon Department of Ed requires that the board approves the grant agreement in a board meeting, and it is reflected in board minutes that I can attach to the smart sheet that I have to submit once that action's taken. But this just outlines the agreement of how much money the ODE that Willamina will receive from the state, and what our plan for that money is, and the reporting process. So we do quarterly reports for the use of these funds. We submit an annual plan, and we do an annual report that has to be posted on our website. Also, we had an application for the Early Literacy Fund. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that because Sarah did all the heavy lift on that, and so she will present that as part of her package. One of the things that I want to mention that I didn't put in my report was Sarah and I both attended the law conference last week, and we attended the superintendent's off the record meeting. Significant amount of time was dedicated to reviewing the Portland Public strike. And it was really interesting to listen to the superintendent from Portland Public and Joel Hungerford, who is their legal counsel that helped in that negotiation process. One of the things that was really interesting was how non-local that strike became, and that negotiation. It became very much a national platform. The National Education Association, not just our Oregon, teachers union, it was really on the national level. And at one point, the caucus was completely between people from Sacramento, California, people from Washington, D.C., and it became clear that this was about really making a national statement. And the result of that is that there's probably going to be some movement on a statewide teacher salary. I think we will see that become maybe a reality sooner rather than later. It was presented as legislation in the last legislative session in Oregon, it didn't pass. One district in Oregon actually put it into effect, Union School District. They created something that modeled what was proposed in that legislation, which had basically starting salaries for a first-year teacher at $60,000 versus most districts are probably in the mid to high 40s. So I do believe that will be something we will see coming down the pipe soon. And the other thing that came out of that is the governor has started a task force to really revisit state school funding. So looking at how much money does it take to maintain current service levels for districts and fund schools. The other thing, and this is I think the hard part for small districts, is it may they may dictate how much ending fund balance we can now have, which for a small district and for a district that isn't known to pass bonds, it's really important that we maintain an ending fund balance that can maintain our facility. For instance, we dedicate funding into a building maintenance fund. We put so much away every year with the idea that every 10 years we might need to replace a roof, or every 10 years we might need to resurface Oaken Hills Drive because we own that. The city doesn't own that, the county doesn't own that. It's our job to maintain that road from the stop sign to the school. So some of those maintenance, your general fund can't do that. It just can't. And so we put in money knowing basically a rainy day fund, and to have that if a HVAC system goes out, things like that. And so if they dictate that a district could only have, say, 8%, our board policy right now says I'll maintain 12%. And I think those numbers would go down low. But they recognize that it takes more ending fund balance for a small district than it does a large district, because they typically can levy money in other ways through building permits and things like that, and local option levies. But that's worrisome, I think, for small districts. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Reporting and compliance is the end of the calendar year is a busy time for reporting. It's quarter reports are due for our student investment account, our high school success, which Jamie and her team completed the high school success quarterly report. I did the student investment account report, and it's also when our special education child count is due every December. The state wants to know how many students are being served through special education. And so each district reports all the students that are being served. It's a way that they determine funding. We get what's called average daily membership for every single student that attends school, but some students based on need are weighted. And so if you are on an IEP, you are double weighted, but only up to 11%. So we have approximately 18% of our students on an IEP. So 7% of our students that are on an IEP do not receive that double weighting. The double weight helps to pay for special ed teachers, instructional assistants dedicated to serving our students with disabilities, testing, and then some of the services that we might contract out with Willamina SD, like occupational therapists, physical therapists, vision specialists, some of those things. We also have to do what's called a maintenance of effort. And so they look every year at how much you spend on special ed, and the expectation is you will continue to spend that amount. And if you don't spend that amount, you have to give a rationale why. So one year we didn't meet maintenance of effort, and so they come back and look at why that might be, and it might be as simple as a high cost disability student moved out of the district. Someone that maybe had specialized transportation, a one-to-one, a lot of supplemental services, and so those are things you have to follow up with as well. So those are all December reports that are done. District leadership team is continuing to explore the new student information system. We've now looked at Synergy and Power School. I think Power School was done in a teacher or a professional development platform. So hopefully we will get input from staff and make that decision soon so we can, there's usually a heavy lift for onboarding a new system. So it would be nice to get that started sooner rather than later. Also included in your packet is just your December board activity. As you can see, it's also a short page. It's a one pager. Usually it's at least 2 pages for the things that we need to check off for December. Also is your board summary, board policy summary. So I've been this year, and mostly for my incumbent, is I'm going through all of our policies and summarizing them. So if you've noticed in your board packet, you've gotten a section every month. And so this is section G on personnel, and it just goes, it really takes that big binder and summarizes it into the nuts and bolts of our policies. And by the end of the year, I hope to have that set of policies summarized into something digestible. That's it for me.
Next up, we have Sarah. We have principal report.
All right. November was a really good month for us. I always feel like October we kind of hit that slump. And I was hoping it was a slump, and it was. But November was really good for a lot of us, kids and teachers, and it feels pretty good to be here now again. Professional development, the other thing I will add is the law conference that I did attend with Carrie. Lots of new updates for Senate bills and just making sure we're following everything like we should. And it was a good time, lots learned. Swell is school-wide English learning. One of our reading specialists and one of our first grade teachers, TJ Weiss, have really volunteered to step up. They've been going through trainings through the ESD. I believe they trained this morning at the middle and high school. And they've also been training the elementary staff as well. This was their second training. These strategies really help not only our English language learners, but every single kid. So it really is to the benefit of all of our kids and teachers that they have strategies just on foundational reading skills. Oops, I should say now, it's typo. We had our second tribal history, shared history training through the WSD. I had 2 4th grade teachers and 1 3rd grade teacher attend. And we, at the very end of it, created an implementation plan for this year for implementing tribal history, shared history lessons into the curriculum, which 4th grade is already doing, but they're gonna start rolling up in grade levels, and we'll all be implementing them very soon. So it was good information, we learned a lot. For the school improvement plan, Tim Overholster, one of our 4th grade teachers, works very closely with Sarah Frost downtown at the Willamina Library, and this year they have arranged to do a virtual field trip for the whole school on December 20th, so classes are all invited to tune in and learn about the library and different programs going on throughout the year, and especially heading into Christmas break, the kids have an opportunity to go down and check it out. We had family conferences held on November 9th. They were shortly after the first grading quarter, so it was perfect timing for teachers to hand them their report cards, talk to them about how their kids are doing. Conferences are well attended. Alex Enos, our PE teacher, organizes a canned food drive every year to help support the local food banks, and this year is no exception. He has kind of pumped it up pretty good within the school. We've got a pretty hot race going on between our grade levels. There's some fierce competition. And the winning team will earn a popcorn and movie party. So big thank you to Alex. I really appreciate him doing this every year. Just something he enjoys doing. Another big thank you to Scott Nelson and the high school leadership. They every year raise money or shop for a student. And I know that this year, there were some pretty significant numbers of families and students in need. So they went out shopping with the leadership team. And then next week on the 20th, they're going to wrap and deliver their gifts to some of our kids, which is a great tradition. It's good for the high school kids. It's good for the little kids. So just everyone involved. Some upcoming events. We have quite a few field trips this month. Mrs. Mode joined up with Mr. Crow from the high school, and they raised salmon eggs, and they went to go release them and compare and contrast the difference between the river and the pond. So they had a great time. Our 4th grade is all taking turns going to Yamhill Valley Heritage Center the next 2 weeks. Then we've got winter break coming up. Our enrollment is staying pretty steady. And then there's a great picture of my staff decorating the Christmas tree. They're so fun. So I had to include that. Do you want me to present on the literacy?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background. I thought it was pretty important to kind of describe what literacy looks like here in the elementary school, just to help kind of give you an idea of how we arrived at the decision on going for the grant and what to spend the money on. So for the past 7-8 years, we formed a response to intervention team made up of a teacher from each grade level, our reading intervention specialists, special education, and they really took on the heavy lift of organizing what does a multi-tiered system of support for literacy look like at the elementary school. So it starts with the master schedule. Each grade level has 90 minutes of literacy instruction a day. That could look like reading, writing, spelling, but it's done at grade level so that every student, whether they are on grade level or not, is exposed to grade level curriculum that's following the standards. But then we also know that not every kid is at grade level and not every kid is ready to get those standards. So we need to meet them where they're at. So using a universal screener 3 times a year, which is the DIBELS that I talk about, we go through and screen our kids, and the data that we get back tells us what skills they're lagging in the foundational reading skills. So even if they're in 5th grade, if they're still struggling to learn those phonics, our 5th grade teachers aren't teaching phonics. We need to go back and fill in those gaps so that they can continue to move forward. So every 8 weeks, we take a look at every single one of our kids and figure out what skills they're lagging. And then within the grade level, we look for kids that are missing similar lagging skills. And between the grade level teachers, so we've got 3 grade level teachers, we've got 4 reading intervention specialists, we've got special education teachers that are pulling at the same time, we're able to divide up the grade level into specific groups and meet their needs for 30 minutes a day. Those kids that are on grade level or working above benchmark, they go into an enrichment group where they can just continue to go and learn at their own level, get challenged, read books, and really dig into what they're ready for. But the goal is that we have intervention materials to meet each kid where they're at. And then our groups are always fluid. We're always hoping that that was it. We can fill the gaps. We can move on to the next set of gaps. So every 8 weeks, we sit down as a grade level team, administration, Title I reading specialists, and we go through every kid again and take a look. Okay, how was that intervention? And then we determine, was it the materials? Was it the teacher? Is it the environment? What happened? Why isn't this kid moving? Or wow, this kid really made gains this last 8 weeks. We're gonna move them up, we're gonna move them down, and really take a look at the individual kiddo. We move on to the next set of 8 weeks. We do progress monitoring. So the kids that are in our intensive needs range, where they need a lot of skill building, their progress monitored every week. Our kids that are slightly below grade level are every other week. And then our kids that are on benchmark or core, we progress monitor them once every 9 weeks. We know that they're gonna stay pretty consistent. So that's kind of what we use, and that's what literacy looks like every day here. Every kid has 90 minutes in their class and then 30 minutes in their special group. I think that's it. The other thing is we have intervention materials to address each group. So even at 3rd through 5th, they're not going to get phonemic awareness and phonics skills, but we've got intervention materials to reach them where they're at. So with that being said, Oregon legislature established House Bill 3198, which makes early literacy a top priority. They're focusing on 4 goals: increasing early literacy for children birth to 3rd grade, reducing literacy academic disparities for student groups that have historically experienced academic disparities, increase support to parents and guardians to enable them to be partners in the development of their children's literacy skills and knowledge, and increase access to early literacy learning through support that is research-aligned, culturally responsive, student-centered, and family-centered. So we sat down and took a look at this grant. It was very easy to fill in the pieces of it because we've done so much work in intervention. We knew we've done this, we're working on this, but it was also easy to see the pieces that help us to make the most academic gains. So over the 23-25 biennium, the early literacy grant will help support us in staffing small group high dosage tutoring for students with significant lagging skills in early literacy. This is approximately $135,000, so about 66 the first year, about 68 the next year. We believe this will have the biggest academic improvement for our kids. What we have found is that with explicit instruction and the more individualized attention you can give to the kid in a smaller group, that's where the most growth happens. So a little bit, in addition to all this, we've also got our Title I staff. We have 2 reading instructors and 2 instructional assistants. They also throughout the day have some gaps in their schedule when they're not with an RTI group, and they are taking kids that are not making growth. So they're kind of flatlined, they're kind of stuck where they're at. They are pulling those kids and working in groups of 2 at the most for a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever they can get in a day. And that's where we're seeing the biggest gains, is really helping those kids one-on-one. So that's what we would like to use the funds for, is adding another staff member to help do another round of the tutoring for our kids that are needing it the absolute most. So with that being said, I would also like to say that years ago, I don't even know how many years ago, we were in continuous improvement status, which we had ODE come in and assign us a mentor. She was wonderful. She helped us, our whole district, through the process. The elementary school moved into targeted school improvement, and just before Thanksgiving break, we got a letter saying that we were off of school improvement. So just a huge thank you to the teachers. It goes to show how hard they have all worked. One of the things we focus on is aligning our arrows, making sure that every teacher is doing the same thing and following the same rules. That way we're all moving in the same direction. And I really feel like they have done that, and they've had a tremendous effort in doing the same thing from grade level to grade level and from teammate to teammate. And that, I think, has made all the difference in the world. So that's a lot about our literacy. Any questions?
You know, again, this was required to be presented to the board. It has to be reflected in our minutes as we get approval for this grant from ODE. It's important that the board's aware of the money we receive from ODE and what our plan, what our plan is to spend that money.
Yeah, I feel really confident. We've been very fortunate. We have all the intervention materials, I think, that we could ever need. Curriculum-wise, we're addressing each piece right where it is. Curriculum, we're fortunate. We have a brand new core curriculum that we got last year. Life is good, but this is a little bit better and helps to reach our most needing
One of the essential components too was in this House bill. This was definitely Governor Kotek's one of her priorities, and you may have heard the phrase "science of reading." So that was the required component. And with the adoption of new curriculum, that component is built in. And so that was one barrier where other districts that are applying for these funds, if you don't have a curriculum that has science of reading, you are required to spend your money on that.
Yeah, and we don't need it, because we're already there. Yeah. You guys have any questions on any of that? It was a lot. Thank you for listening. All right.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gary, you know you're up on the screen?
I know. Looking at all my age blocks.
Next up is Jamie.
All right. Well, that was awesome.
Thank
you. Thank you for sharing. That's so important. It's very important. Literacy. It's good.
I'm sending you readers now.
Well, we are trying to work on those same things, so maybe a little differently, but still. So I would say that, so professional learning wise, we did, I've been doing a lot of research on artificial intelligence, so AI, and there is this really great tool that is out there. It's called Magic School, and it's really designed for teachers. And the idea is that teaching is becoming one of the highest burnout professions, and we're having a hard time getting them and keeping them because it's just so much, because there are, as Sarah pointed out, there are so many different needs. Like you have to differentiate for so many different levels, and we have our language learners, and just there's a lot of different pieces of that. And a lot of teachers don't necessarily know how to do all of those things, and we're just being faced with more and more challenges. And so I did quite a bit of research and just watched a lot of, just did my own little rabbit hole research, and then there was a session at the MWEC rally too as well. But basically we talked about it in our staff, and one of the things it talked about was that it's kind of like an 80-20 rule. So artificial intelligence is something that can really help, like almost be like a partner with a teacher, and help do a lot of things, like give them like an 80% start on something, but then the teacher still needs to go in and like customize it for the students that you have, and like maybe, switch, take some stuff out. But so we just began to explore it, and then gave teachers some time to play around with it. But this tool can do everything from, generate a lesson when you put in the information about what you want, and what level and grades and standards and things, but also, it can do things like project-based learning or some real life problem solving, but also a lot of this literacy stuff that we're working with as well is if you have text that students are reading, an article or some sort of information, you can put it in and you can level it instantly for your students. So it's in seconds. I mean, it's crazy, mind blowing. Also does translation. It even has a part where if you're working with students from a behavioral standpoint and you have a problem, you can type it in and it will give you restorative questions to talk about with students. It's just it can help write IEP goals. It's just like this tool that is it kind of makes you breathe a little bit so that you can you can do what only you can do, which is build the relationships, add the creativity, bring that teaching to life instead of being so burnt out all the time. So I think it's just an area where, I don't know, like I've just went to it a lot in the last month and just tried to play around with it and see what's available. I even translated a letter the other day that I needed to send home, and it just instant and very, very impressive. But so we've been playing around with that and just kind of seeing how it can help bring that information to the teachers. So that's been really good. The freshman PLC presented, so every 3 weeks our PLCs create a 3-week advisory module that we teach at the beginning of advisory, the first hour of the day, and that is some topic that they've decided is that 6 through 12 can be valuable. It has an element of social emotional learning, some sort of learning, making learning visible. We want some team building, some collaboration, just so that we can build some of those skills with students. And so our freshman team, they did a module on healthy habits. And so we just finished that up today, and they put in a wealth of resources for for teachers to kind of choose their own adventure. Lots of different links and things that they could use based on the level of the students that they're at. Just a lot of self-development, self-reflection. Those are things that our students really need help guiding them through those pieces of learning about themselves and what they need, and so they can become advocates for themselves. And then also, as Sarah said, we had Sandy and TJ. I got to go, I went to a workshop with them earlier this fall at the ESD, and from the district I was at before, we had a higher population of English learners. So it's very familiar with me, but also recognizing, as Sarah said, all these strategies and tools are good for all of our kids. And especially at the secondary level with academic language, a lot of our students don't have the academic language, and so just the tools are amazing. So they came in last Monday and this Monday, and so they did a back-to-back session with our teachers, gave us some quick tools and gave us some background information. Also, and then I think the week before that, I ran them through a module, but we're trying to give them also some activities that help them and like be put in the place of like what your brain does when you have to think, like you don't know the language or the words, and you have to slow down and think, but yet things are still moving and you get really lost. And so it just kind of we had a couple activities that put them in those shoes, and I think that helps them understand what the learner is going through so that they can be better at creating those adjustments. And then just last week, was it last week? I know, Ryan Lewis, I just can't say enough good things about him, our music teacher, 6 through 12, but they had a band concert and, or music concert, and it was just, I think he had 75 students, yeah, but that were involved, and the place was packed. It was like standing room only, and the excitement on the students, to perform from 6th through 12th, and because they're just all very proud of themselves, and just the parents and the videoing and the excitement for each of their students. He really highlights individuals for very short snippets throughout the concert, and I don't know, he has this way of being what he needs to be for 6th graders and being what he needs to be for 12th graders, and it just blends. And so it was really awesome and fun, and it's just neat to see us getting back to these places where we're seeing more families and we're seeing more people, and we're getting to be in front of them, and they can highlight their skills. So he did an amazing job. Sarah alluded to, but Scott Nelson and Naraya Fasana, the leadership in the National Honor Society, they're working with the Shop for a Student. They went out today and they shopped for like 65 students, I think. It was a lot. And then Cherie Barrios, the week before, took her National Junior Honor Society and shopped for the Tree of Giving. And they had a really cool experience. They stopped at Wallery's Pizza on the way back. And I love these things because the greatest compliments are ones that come from people that don't even know you or know much about you. And so they were very impressed by our students and just what they were doing and the way they were behaving. And so they ended up giving them a gift certificate for a return visit, which they'll be going back out for Dornbecker. So they're going to take the kids and do that. But I just thought that was really cool. And it's not in here, but the next day, Jerry Bzinski came in and he had gotten an email from an official that did the same thing, took the time to write an email about our basketball team and how great it was to officiate and how respectful they were to the official, which once again, you don't hear those kinds of things very often. So I just love, that's culture stuff to me. And like when you're building that, that doesn't mean that we don't have, more work to do, but it's just awesome when those are just measures that show us that we're in the right direction. Scott Nelson's also with his leadership kids doing a blood drive this week. And then Rachel Bevins took students to the CTG, our college and career fair. So that was also great. So we've been getting our kids out. They've gone to a college visit. They've gone to this college and career fair, and I just love getting them out and seeing different opportunities and meeting lots of people. And then we have our student and staff craft fair going on right now that Treon Nelson helped organize. So we have kids that have made things and adults, and they're selling them. They have little booths set up out here at the basketball game. So when this is over, maybe you can head on by. And then just we're gonna meet next week for Freshmen on Track. We actually, because we get back, we don't have a Monday left before the semester ends. So we have once we get back from Christmas break. So we're just going to spend some time. We've been looking at our 9th through 12th graders and just where we can kind of do a final push, because the semester will be over before we know it. And so we're just really working with that. And our enrollment is at 494. So we're moving along. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. We don't have Justine anymore for the tribal report. Who are you?
Hi. Hello.
Who are you?
Who are you? My name is Bethany Mason, and I am acting interim program manager. So who knows how long I will be with you, but thank you so much for having me. And I did not prepare an official report tonight, but I do want to kind of echo what Jamie said. It was so awesome to have Rachel bring out, I would guess, again, I don't have my data, but about 25 students in the morning session, and then again 25 students to our tribal gymnasium. We had, I'm estimating, about 20 different universities and community colleges from all around the state. And so they also got a chance to apply for Chemeketa while they were there if they wanted, the Oregon Promise Grant if they wanted. And since COVID, that was really the first opportunity that we've had a bunch of students out, and that was just, it felt really good to have our students as a group just out there and enjoying themselves. So we look forward to doing more of that in the future. And then Treon Nelson also came out for a financial aid and scholarship night later, November 30th. So that was really awesome to have her there as well for a smaller event. So of course those are more high school focused, but from K to 12, we just, we're doing a lot of good things. We're seeing a lot of good things with our students, and we really appreciate you guys allowing us to be right here in this room tutoring K through 12 students, and look forward to more good things in the future.
Thanks, Bethany.
Yeah.
Thank you for me. Yes, we appreciate you.
Do we have anything on the student report?
So Ryan is very involved in the craft sale. He is running a booth, and I told him he needed to make a quick appearance because he's wearing a belt that he won at the Rose City Champ. So he was a champion wrestler at a tournament this weekend, a very prestigious tournament, and his belt's pretty awesome. Yeah. Go get him. I said he had to come show you guys his belt. Yeah. Oh yeah, so we had a female winner and we had a male winner, so that's pretty amazing to get a winner at all, and to have two from Willamina School District is pretty darn impressive.
Is that our 100,000?
Yeah. I think there's a sports publication company that's going to come out and do a little press release on the two kids.
Somebody was at practice tonight.
Yeah, Jay McDonald, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
He said, I have his report, but he did say there was, they wrestled over 100 matches over 2 days. There was 27 boys teams and 38 girls teams represented. So for them to fare that way, that's pretty impressive. The boys finished 13th and the girls finished 23rd. They had 8 boys win at least 3 matches to qualify for day 2, and they had 2 6th place finishers and 2 champions. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the girls had a 6th place finisher and the boys had a 6th place finisher, and then each had a
Yes,
champion.
Adonai Stanton and Paige Baker, right? Yeah. And then Zoe and I.
Well, I know he wasn't gonna stay to give his report, so if there's anything else in there to share from his report.
It's
please do.
some of it's some similar stuff that I shared.
Yeah,
and
so if there's
the-
any.
I don't think I said, but the blood drive's on Wednesday, if anyone wants to, they have 37 people signed up.
But you can just, community members can just come up and donate?
Yeah.
Is
Usually
that
do
the gym or?
It's at the middle school gym.
Middle school gym. Now that it has a nice HVAC system. We had to move it one time, midday because of the heat in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, it wasn't a good scene.
Almost blood really fast.
Okey dokey.
We can come back to them when.
Okay,
wanna
yep,
keep
we can
going.
come back to
Yeah.
Let's see, next on the agenda, audience time. Now's the time for audience input. Is there anything from the audience they feel needs to come before the board that is not on our current agenda? Welcome. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, reports and discussion, policy review, the BD/BDA board meeting, and BDC executive sessions.
So this is just for review. As I stated in the last board meeting, I'm going to be putting some policies in our packet just for you to review. And then once we go over everything and revise anything that needs to be revised and discuss it, if it's up for us to go ahead and vote on the next meeting, we will do that. These two particular policies have come into effect due to we haven't updated them since 2018. Obviously, things have changed on how board meetings and executive sessions have go into effect since basically COVID, because everything kind of went virtual and everything. So everything, the way board meetings and everything are constructed and how we had our policy set in 2018, how we're conducting things now and what we're allowing now is different. So a lot of that verbiage has just kind of changed or whatever. I am working a little bit more with OSBA on this one, and I sent out some, to get some information on listserv from other districts to kind of see how everybody's doing it. Let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, good job.
I know.
It goes around.
It isn't it?
Good job.
It is.
Thank you. Sorry I wasn't here. I'm at the craft sale.
Yeah,
So.
I
All right, you guys have a great meeting.
Thank
you.
We're proud of you.
He crafts, he wrestles.
I know, I was gonna say.
And they both won by pin also.
Yeah.
What weight class is it?
185. What is that fit?
285.
285.
It's heavyweight.
Yeah.
No, but 285 is the
Want
top.
to come practice with him, Dan?
I'm way more than 285.
So I won't spend a lot of time on this because I'm still working with OSBA on that, but one thing I do want us to kind of start thinking about is how we will handle audience phone calls and such online versus in person. A lot of districts right now, if you allow audience comment, are having people come to the actual meetings if they want to make a public comment. And part of the reason for that is it kind of protects you from having people call in last minute. That will prevent prank phone callers or threats or profanity. I mean, just anything that could come in with a phone number that we're not aware of. If we want to allow that kind of comment type system or whatever, I would prefer that at least a 24-hour notice be given to us or myself at district office, so I can give it to the board chair so that we're aware of the phone number that's calling into our meeting. know the person, maybe even what they're commenting about ahead of time before we just alluded to, somebody calling in, if that's a process that we wanna go, or just have that available. Again, I also think that if we allow public comment in our regular sessions, open sessions that we now have, then that might not even be an issue. But we might just wanna have something in policy in case we ever have to, for some reason, go into a situation where we are needing public comment or allowing public comment and how we wanna conduct that. The other thing was, the other bigger thing on executive sessions where there's just the biggest verbiage change I seen in that was just that kind of protecting the board, the public, if they are attending, in case somebody is in the building, an unsafe person, somebody would show up and start making threats or comments, we could convene immediately into an executive, so to get everybody out. Because right now, just in policy, you only have certain reasons why you can go to executive session, and obviously, you gotta do it safe, no matter what, but that would just keep everything in guidelines and everything. So just some things that are coming up. I'm still working with OSBA, so these might be in your board packets a couple of times for review before the actual suggestions on all that is made, but just kind of think about it. If there's any other suggestions you wanna give me, or you wanna see how other things are conducted, just let me know and I can put that in a sample policy or get it in a sample policy before we vote on it.
Well, a little background on this one, which you notice there's quite a bit of significant change in the board meeting. And as any policy or case law usually stems from a complaint. And this almost all is a result of the Newberg lawsuit. And why this has become very specific language on what constitutes a meeting.
Well, public comment is also a privilege. We don't have to allow that.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
It's a good idea, but yep, it's a business meeting, so you can choose to.
Right.
We did add, if you noticed, this year we added a little bit of verbiage underneath audience time so that we can clarify, what it's for. There are certain laws that protect employees. So you can talk about programs or operations, but you can't talk about personnel.
Correct, yeah.
So we kind of clarified in that in case that was what their concern stemmed from.
Okay, moving on. Next on the agenda is decisions regarding the ODE grant application and agreement approval.
So you have one grant agreement and one grant application. We need the board to acknowledge and approve.
I move to approve the Early Literacy Success Initiative application and the submission to ODE.
Second.
The motion to approve the Early Literacy Success Initiative application and the submission to ODE has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the Early Literacy Success Initiative application and the submission to ODE signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is passed.
I move to approve
Next up,
the student investment account agreement with ODE.
Second.
The motion to approve the SIA Student Investment Account Agreement with ODE has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the SIA Student Investment Account Agreement with ODE signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is passed. On the agenda, final item on the agenda, future agenda items.
Coming up, can't think of anything that will be coming up soon.
We have a lot that we just planned in our last work session, so yeah,
All right, there being nothing further on the agenda to discuss, the meeting of the Willamina School Board is hereby adjourned.